unless if you don't know about our tier list. Just to give you a quick rundown. Okay, I can do it, Scotty, since I made you do it so many times in the past. We have our grades from A plus to F. A plus being the best bombs in the set, and all of the A grades being bomby cards, just warp the game around them. I'm sure everybody knows what bomb is. For a B grade, the card has to be overstated for its mana cost, or undercosted for its effect, like undercosted chip removal, or maybe 2-for-1 on the board. That is a lot of times extremely powerful in limited, making one card worth more cards, but on the board. Then we have a C grade, C plus to C minus. That's gonna be the bulk of your deck. That's gonna be what you're fine having, right? It's C plus tend to be pretty good cards, but they're not like that undercosted. They're not pushed. They're just pretty good. So if most of your deck is in C range, you got a good deck. That's expected. That's expected to have. Now when we get to D, those are the cards that sometimes you gotta put in the filler. Maybe your color was closed, maybe you switched colors. Just a little bit understated creatures. Effects that you don't really need in the deck most of the times. And here we also put like effects that you maybe really like, but you don't want more than one of them in this D grade. And then if nobody wants more than one of them and they're common, well, you're probably gonna get one anyways. No need to pick it highly, even though it's highly desirable in this set in your deck. The F cards, strictly unplayable. I mean, you can put any card in the deck, but basically what F means is if you put it in the deck, it's gonna make your deck worse every single time. So yeah, that's about it. Usually the F cards might seem cool or something, but they're like not 1-for-1. That's like the easiest. When you see F, most of the time it's gonna be the card is not a 1-for-1, which is something you really want from your cards. Like one card to be worth at least one card, at a minimum. Okay.
7 mana, creature, Eldrazi, Trilobites. A 7/7 vigilance. When you cast or cycle, drown your lurker, create an 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. I petition from now on, we just say it, create a Eldrazi spawn. But this also cycles for 2 and a blue, cycles for 3 mana. Something to note about this entire set is that Modern Horizons, as you said, is a really high-powered set, right? This is a pretty synergistic set, and it's a pretty high-powered set, which means that cards that look very strong on their face may get lower grades than you may expect if you're comparing them to cards from a quote-unquote normal Premier set, because everything is higher power level, right? For example, normally like a 7 mana 7/7 Vigilance, it's fine, you know? That has like a bailout mode of cycling mode, that's fine. I understand that in this set, there are colorless costs to pay for certain additional costs for commons and certain uncommon cards, right? Like colorless Eldrazi is a theme of the set. So Eldrazi spawns help pay for those costs, right? So that's the value beyond just ramping of an Eldrazi spawn token. Do I think that's worth paying 3 mana, drawing a card, making a spawn token? Like, how good do we think that is? I think it's okay. I think it's all right. I don't think it's anything special. How good do I think a 7 mana 7/7 vigilance is in this set? I think it's okay. You know, I'm like kind of mid on this card. I'm going to start at a C minus.
That is high. That's
you
high
don't like
for
this card? You don't like this card?
Yeah, I don't like it.
I think it's pretty mid. I'm super down to go low.
I mean, C minus for me is like a really good 7-drop. Because how many 7-drops can you put in a deck?
I mean, a little bit more if they have cycling.
Cycling for 3? That's so much.
It's a lot.
Cycling for 3 is like, whoo! That I don't think this is a bailout. This is why I kind of don't care about this in. This is why this is not a blue card. Okay. Why I said that we shouldn't put it in a blue in blue, because it's not that much better in blue. I
think the 3 mana mode's the main mode, which is you can value that as you will.
Yeah, I would say that's this is a 7 mana card, because I would say that's the main mode. Because I don't want to pay 3 mana to make a 0/1 Eldrazi and draw a card. Like, I really don't want it. Huh?
The 7 mana mode's the main mode. This card's like a D-.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. Even if you have the 1/1 Seka guy draw card. What? What do you mean 1/1? This is 0/1. Okay, so 3 mana draw card, make a treasure. I mean, that's kind of crap. 3 mana draw card, make a treasure. That's not great. 3 mana 0/1 that cantrips. Yeah, this is so bad. Super high power level set. We got. I know this is just the first card, but I want to like add a little bit on this. The people that played Modern Horizons know already about the power level of commons and uncommons. Modern Horizons 3 is kind of similar in that regard. The power level is through the roof. Like, Modern Horizons has been, both 1 and 2, especially 2, and the 3 follows it pretty well in that regard. A set where there is an incredible power creep in limited. Who cares? Modern, we're not discussing that here right now. In limited, huge power creep. Like, everything costs less. Everything has more power and toughness. Everything does more for the same cost, for the lower cost. It is crazy, the power level. So you can't really. You can transfer the knowledge of evaluating cards from the previous sets to this one, but you still gotta adapt. Because this thing is just one body, 7/7 visions. Okay, it makes a 0/1, so that's kind of cool. So if you have like an Eldrazi token, you got an Eldrazi token, okay, already, the spawn, Eldrazi spawn. So you sack it to make this one, so it's like a 6 mana then. Let's say you have a deck like that. And then you replace that token, so the next thing that you cast is still gonna cost 1 less. I mean, this is always a 6-drop in your deck. It's still kind of medium. I'm on a D for this one.
D for doo-doo.
D for doo-doo. You're on a C-?
Nah, I'll go D+. It's pretty bad.
Pretty bad. You're soon gonna see like how powerful Modern Horizons 3 cards are.
Warp Tusker, 7 mana. Eldrazi Boar Beast, it's a 6/8 with reach. When you cast or cycle Warp Tusker, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice. Eldrazi spawn token. And you can cycle it for 2 and a green. Literally the opposite side, and I think it's a lateral. I don't think this one is much better or worse than the last one. I'll also give this one a D+. Like, I don't even think the archetype is that particularly different in green. So I'm still giving this a D+.
Yeah, I'm on a D. I think it's a little bit better in green, this. But who cares? Because you don't want to cycle it. Okay, that's a really bad way to use the mana. Very bad. I think, for this set. Okay. Next up we got these... we're kind of done with colorless uncommon. The real colorless, where you don't have to be in some color. We have a cycle of these lands, 10 of them. 10 lands that are all tap for colorless mana, all enter the battlefield untapped, and all of them can sacrifice for you to get one of the 3 basic lands that kind of represent this land. For example, this one, you can sack it to get green, blue, or red, and there is 10 of them for every 3 pair, for every wedge and for every shard. You can also, in the late game, I guess, cycle them for 3 of their respective mana, not that great, but it's there to draw a card. So that's kind of cool, right? Sometimes you really don't need these lands in the late game. I don't think it's a big selling point. I think the best thing about it is, we gotta talk a little bit about this. There are gonna be some cards, some Eldrazi cards that have a colorless cost. Now, how should I put this? It's not any mana that you can pay for it. You gotta pay colorless mana. So for example, you're creating colorless mana here, and that means you can pay for some of the Eldrazi cards. Like we have this one in the back. This is 7 any mana. 7 mana of any color, colorless or whatever. this Eldrazi token 6 for colorless. This adds colorless. Some of the Eldrazi cards really need, you're really gonna need colorless mana. So this is nice. Like it gives you that and it gives you fixing as well. I think all of these are kind of like a C. All of these seem pretty good. All 10 of these.
I mean, the best part about these lands is that we haven't experienced this for a while, but these are fixing lands that can be tapped for mana on the first turn.
Yeah,
that's
also
very, very, very strong. That's the strongest part about this whole cycle.
You mean the turn they're played?
Yes, but the turn that they're played.
Yeah.
You know, you can put this card in your deck, have better colored sources for your like overall fixing count, and still be able to tap for mana on the first turn, which is wild.
That's pretty cool.
I think they're all C's.
Yeah, these are really good. We're done with commons. We're so fast, Cory. We're done with colorless commons already.
Can you read the next ones? Because I'm updating the tier list.
Breaker of Creation for 6 and double colorless mana. It's an 8/4. When you cast this spell, these Eldrazi all have cast effects. Like if you know them, that's the usual. You gain 1 life for each colorless permanent you control. Hexproof from each color. Annihilator 2. Okay, hexproof from each color, so it's not gonna die probably. I guess there are some devoid cards, like red removal for 2 mana 4 damage. That's devoid. Devoid means it has no color. So we have some cards that are red, green, white, blue, black. I don't know why I went into that that direction, but that are actually colorless. So it can be targeted with those, and multicolored as well. Oh, no, it cannot be targeted with multicolored, but it can be targeted with those. My bad. That is kind of a lot of life. Like the lands count as colorless permanents, right, Scotty?
Yep, all lands are colorless.
That is a lot of life. This really depends on how good you are at ramping. This is with archetypes we have red, green, and blue are the colors that have an agenda of ramping with colorless mana. But you need 2 colorless mana here, so you need to have something. You can't just play it for 8. But that is a lot of... that's a lot of life. That's gonna be a lot of life. I'm gonna go with D+, but I think we give a ceiling to this one, huh? Like you can't just
I feel
put
like
it in a deck.
the Eldrazi decks just naturally make spawns anyway as their ramping source. So I think that's just how the archetype works. But if you want to give it a ceiling grade because it looks like it could fit into any deck, but I just think this is secretly just a teamer card.
It is a teamer card, yeah.
Yeah. So like, do you really want a ceiling grade on that?
No need for ceiling grade. Okay, I'm on like a... Annihilator is nice. Like whenever it attacks, opponent sacrifices 2 permanents. But if 4 life, so it's gonna die. It's just hexproof, not protection from color. I mean, in those decks you do get this ramp for decks. You can't put too many cards that require colorless though. I'm on a C- for this one in this respective deck. I think this is fine.
I kind of feel like this is one of the better things to ramp into. Uncommon.
It's 4 toughness though.
Yeah. So it just trades off with like some 4 mana creature, maybe 3 mana creature. Or Death Toucher.
Or 2 mana removal spell in red.
Yeah. How consistent do you think the ramping is? I feel like it's fairly consistent.
I think it is, but you can't
cast
put
this?
too many of these these cards in your deck, I think. Man, it's gonna be pretty crazy, like when you play an Eldrazi deck against an Eldrazi deck, and then you play this attack, and then the opponent cannot play their Eldrazis anymore because they had to sacrifice 2 things.
Glimpse the Impossible is pretty dang good with this, and I think that card's going to be pretty good in these Eldrazi decks.
So what do you think?
I'm going to go C. I'll be a little bit more optimistic.
Okay. It's gonna be interesting because there's so many. There are a lot of. I hope these slower decks are gonna work because there are a lot of pretty aggressive strategies, I think, in this set. Pretty like super tempo-y.
Gaining 5 life is a pretty good way to offset.
Yeah,
aggro
that
too.
is true. That is true.
You reading these, or are we switching? Eldrazi Ravager, 5 and a colorless. 5 and a Wingding, 6 mana total. For a 6/6 Eldrazi, has Annihilator 1. Sacrifice 2 Eldrazi, return Eldrazi Ravager from your graveyard to your hand, and cycling for 2. This is interesting. This one's kind of interesting, but it's a little hard to evaluate for me. There's a pretty big difference between Annihilator 1 and Annihilator 2, right? Annihilator 2 puts the pressure on your opponent to like sack pretty relevant things fairly quickly if it attacks multiple times, right? Annihilator 1 is kind of more like a tickle. 6 mana 6/6. I mean, ideally, you're playing this much earlier than 6 mana, so I think that's fine. I don't really care too much. Actually, I understand the joke. You can cycle this for 2 mana and then sack Eldrazi's later to bring it back from the graveyard, but I don't think that's like a great mode to be. I would much rather be doing something a little bit more proactive, especially if I know I'm a slower deck for 2 mana.
Yeah, that's kind of much better stats than the previous guy.
You like this one better?
I don't think so, but it has better stats.
I think this one is worse overall, so I'm gonna give this a C-.
It is like 2 less mana and only 1 colorless. I'm gonna go on a D+ for this one.
Okay.
I think the Eldrazi decks might not be the greatest. I think all the greats are gonna go a little bit down, but for now, like D+ for believing. Glaring Fleshraker for 2 and a colorless mana. It's a 2/2, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless mana, and whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, this thing deals 1 damage to each opponent. I mean, that can be a lot of damage, but I don't think these decks care too much about face damage and understated creatures. So this one kind of feels mid. Like, you really need to play it fast. You need to play this one very soon. And and it's such a weak body. Such a weak body. And you need a colorless mana, so it's not like you're always gonna have this. Yeah, this is like the engine, but it's so understated. I don't know. Cards are pushed in Modern Horizons, and this one is not. I don't know, man. As I said, I think these like big Eldrazi strategies are gonna go down and down. Even though there are some really good cards. I mean, it really depends how many colorless cards you're gonna have in the deck. I'm on a D for this one. I don't see this one.
Okay, I'm gonna be a decent amount more optimistic on this one. Mostly because I kind of like the idea of, even if I'm playing an understated creature, the first paragraph is pretty good at gaining new life until you can afford to use the spawns for like actual more productive things. But like, if I'm on an aggro deck and my opponent plays this on turn 3, I'm like, okay, I have a turn to breathe, and then after that, every single creature that they play, or even removal spell, like for example the 2 mana 2/2, or sorry, 2 mana deal 4, right, is like, oh, that's another attack they can just fog with a creature.
I mean, you say every single one.
Yeah, that's pretty tough to get through, to be honest. So I'm kind of much higher on this one. I'm gonna see.
The problem is it's like colorless mana, and then you have like 3 blue colorless cards. 2 of those that we saw that cost 7. That's so slow. And then you have 2 red ones and 2 green ones and 2 multicolored ones. That's a lot of commons though. But they all everything except green red. This may be fine in green red, where I can see this in green red, because blue Eldrazi things cost a lot. What do you give this?
C. I think it's powerful.
I mean, this really, I don't know, this really requires a ceiling.
I'm okay with the ceiling because there's a lot of hoops to jump through here. Yeah, because like a lot of hoops to jump through.
It's not just like I'm making a Eldrazi deck. I gotta have a lot of these colorless spells.
Chat's revolting again.
Chat is revolting. I mean, as they're always gonna be in the part of the set review. Don't worry, set review is gonna last for 1 billion hours. You're gonna have time. You're not gonna miss too much. Okay, how about then like D plus? D plus? Like D, I think D, and then ceiling? What would you give it as a ceiling? I would go with something like C or C plus.
I'd like to go C plus for a ceiling.
Yeah, I'm okay with C plus ceiling, but D as a base grade. I really hope this one is good. If this one is good, that means that slower strategies work, right?
Yes. Which is an entire wedge. So if the whole wedge doesn't work, that's a problem for the format.
They've done a good job in Modern Horizons 2, like extremely aggressive modular strategies were good. But then you also had super slow splash everything, play all the colors, cycle a ton, and just go for the late game strategies that were also really, really good. I preferred, obviously, to play the slower strategies. So yeah, hopefully it's gonna work. Okay, next up.
It that heralds the end. 1 and a wingding. 2 mana total for a 2/2 Eldrazi drone. Colorless spells with mana value 7 or greater cost 1 less to cast. Other colorless creatures you control get +1/+1. This one's really interesting. So I do sort of imagine. Well, let's talk about this sort of on a macro level. I kind of see all of these colorless cards, especially the cheap ones, as being splashed cards. Like, no matter, you're never really, at least I don't believe you're ever going to really get like a colorless half split of a deck. You know, I always see you being like 2 colors as a base, splashing colorless. 2 colors as a base, splashing colorless is sort of my idea of how easy these are to cast. So now
you're gonna need those 3 lands.
Yeah, I like how good is it that heralds the end when cast on like turn 5, you know? I think it could be pretty solid, you know? It's a pretty powerful effect. And I do think that if you're splashing, you can still afford to play this before you drop your 7 drops on curve, right? You play this on turn 5, then you drop your 7 drop on turn 6, right? I think that's like a fine play pattern. So I think it's a pretty powerful effect, you know? And for the fact that you can double spell on the turn that you play this, because it's like quote unquote cheap, is kind of nice. So I'm a little bit higher on this card than the last card. Like I think this one is like a C.
I'm still kind of low. There are colorless, some colorless permanents like green. Green has really good creatures that you play in any deck. That like commons. It has 2 commons, 2 mana and 3 mana creature that are colorless Eldrazi. They are green, but they cost green mana, but they're colorless. So that's kind of good with those. How are you ever casting this on turn 2? You can do that. You can cast this on turn 2. It's like if you have a lot of those lands, you know, the 3 mana lands that we just covered, they can create generic mana.
I don't think it's unreasonable for these type of teamer-based decks to have like 6, 7 landscape lands.
Yeah, that you're gonna be picking lands pretty highly. It's gonna be such a weird thing. I think you're gonna want to splash in those decks, but then you don't want to crack your land. It's gonna be very interesting how to build those. It's gonna take a bit to learn. By the way, are you in early access event, Scotty?
Nope.
No.
Do you have to apply?
Go ask, cause.
No, I'm not. I don't want to. I wouldn't play in it even if I was in it.
Oh, okay then. Well, yeah.
No, it's on the weekday. I don't play Magic on the weekdays.
What? So that's new to me. You don't play in the weekday? You do? What are you talking about?
I don't stream and I don't play Magic on the weekdays.
So you do it only on the weekends?
Yes.
That's new.
That's relatively new, yeah.
Okay, but when you're doing a marathon, you play on the weekdays.
Yes.
Okay. So ceiling for this one as well, right?
Sure. Then I'm lowering my grade to like a C minus. But like I think it's like a C plus ceiling as well.
I'm on a D. What I give the last card? D or D plus?
You gave it a D. You gave Glaring Flesh Raker a D.
Yeah, I can go with it. And the ceiling is... I can go with a D plus for the last one and for this one, for both of these. A D plus. And the ceiling like a C plus?
Sorry, I think that tier list command is broken, Lola. Can you double check it?
Yeah. Ooh. I think it's my bad. I didn't turn on my bot. Oops.
I do agree, though, as Lola's doing that. I think it's super fun and interesting. Like, it's always surprising and shocking to me that Magic can present us with these novel play patterns despite the game engine being the same. So I think that's really impressive. And the landscape lands with these colorless cards is actually really, really something I'm looking forward to figuring out how to sequence.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's be real. Actually, I'm probably just going to mess it up and then blame other things besides myself. But well, in theory, it's very interesting.
We'll mess it up a couple of times to learn it. That's losing is learning. I mean, you gotta mess up the things to get good at them. It's with every new set. Like you try out things. Sure, 2 weeks later you're gonna be like, oh, why did I do this? Well, you had to learn. So I'm fine with trying out how good Eldrazi are, even though it feels kind of less consistent than the other decks. But I am looking forward to seeing how good they are. And it's the contestation, right? They could be very contested. That's the thing. That's a little bit similar, like snow decks and things like that. But at least you're getting real cards, not lands. But then they're gonna be pretty bad, unless you have that Eldrazi deck is the problem. And I think like if you're picking colored cards that are not Eldrazi based, like, you're just gonna have a good deck, and then it's nice if you're just gonna get synergies no matter what. Okay, so D plus and C plus ceiling.
Yep.
All right. Next up.
No. Actually, this is you.
Null Elemental Blast. For a colorless mana, instant speed, choose one. Counter target multicolored spell or destroy target multicolored permanent. Which is actually kind of fine. There are 8 multicolored commons. There are a ton of multicolored spells. There are 10, I think 10 uncommons and some other multicolored permanents that are actually lands. So this definitely gets a sideboard grade, but I think it's fine in the main board as well for one mana like this. But again, it's colorless mana, so it's kind of weird. So I'm just gonna give it a D and a ceiling of C minus. What lands are multicolored? No, you have the lands that you can cast from the other side, right? You have flip lands. Dual face lands, and 10 of them are multicolored on the other side. Chat is going wild. The lands are colorless. Scotty, what do you think?
If my opponent has 4 multicolor spells in the main deck, I think this card is barely passable. Do you think that's going to be like an average case for your average deck in terms of that density of multicolor cards?
I don't think it's unplayable. Like I can give it a D minus.
I'm giving it an F. But I also agree that there's a pretty decent amount of multicolor cards, but it's I think it's a rough world for this one. When you get somebody, you're gonna get them really good. The tempo is huge here. It's gonna feel pretty dang good. But like also, I'm not like thrilled about shooting my opponent's scurry of gremlins. You know. I guess countering it's great. I'm kind of sold. I'll go up to D minus.
Yeah, sold on a D minus, baby.
Yeah, main boardable.
It is, I think. It's those 8 commons, 8 multicolored commons. That's huge, and then like 20 multicolored uncommons, something like that. But it's colorless mana. Remember, you gotta pay colorless mana. That's not a small thing.
Twisted Riddlekeeper, 8 mana for an Eldrazi Sphinx. It's a 5/5 with a merge, Wingding blue. So it's a merge cost of 7. I should read emerge. You may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's mana value. I don't think I played it that much, but this came to Arena, right? In Innistrad Remastered. Like we played with emerge on Arena, I think. Is that true?
I don't think
Lola?
we did it on Arena.
Oh, okay. When you cast a spell, tap up to 2 target permanents, put a stun counter on each
We
of
did?
them, and it's flying. Emerge was okay, yeah. So we have played with Emerge.
Oh, yeah, Shadows over Innistrad. Oh, for that 1 week or something, right?
Yeah.
Good memory, yeah.
Hilarious. So emerge is really interesting, and as we learned from the emerge mechanic in Shadows, it really depends on what you're emerging off of. Like obviously, emerging off of Eldrazi spawn is not super valuable. Notably speaking, you cannot emerge Twisted Riddle Keeper onto something and also sack that creature for mana to pay for this. Right? That's how the rules work.
I mean, it literally does nothing if you use it on the Eldrazi spawn, because it's... It's not that great.
What I'm saying is you can't... If you have 6 mana and Eldrazi spawn, it's not like you can emerge it, right? Yeah, okay. But tapping 2 things and tapping them down is pretty powerful. This is like a pretty big swing if you have something to emerge off of. And I think that completely hinges not on archetype, because I actually don't particularly think this is an archetypal card. I think this is a micro synergy card. Like this really depends on if you have things like literal creatures at 3-ish mana that you're like, I'm happy to have this body be expendable and sacrifice it, right? Something that comes into play gets you value. For example, the Serum Visions 2/2. I forgot what it's called. Serum Visionary. Right? If you have like a bunch of those style of cards, then Twisted Riddle Keeper goes way up in my estimation. So I think that this card is pretty deserving of a ceiling grade. But I think at its base, I take it as like a C-.
And at its base as a C-.
Pretty powerful.
So where is it good to emerge it? Like there is a blue 3 mana 2/2 that draws you card and scries for 2. So that would be like... Still need colorless mana to emerge. But it would be about 7 -3, that's like 4 mana. You can play it next turn, I guess. 4 mana 5/5, you didn't really lose a card. 4 mana 5/5, and you tap 2 things, and hope they don't kill it. Really hope, because it doesn't draw you an extra card.
Oh my gosh, you can tap lands. I didn't realize that. Ew.
I mean, sure.
Why did they do that?
You can, but...
That's pretty relevant.
I mean, yeah, it's cool. Because you always have a target. There are not that many things that are... This is gonna make white and blue removal a little bit messed up. Yeah, you can shut off a color like for 1 turn. You can slow down the opponent for 1 turn, so that's kind of cool. You can make them miss their turn, that's pretty big. You want to give it a ceiling grade? Is that what you said?
Yep, because I really think it depends on the actual individual cards you want to be sacrificing.
Yeah, it's very important. And I don't know.
Yep.
There's like 1 in blue, I think.
The Serum Visionary is quite good, off the top of my head.
That's like the only one that because it draws your card, that I'm fine doing it with. Yeah, I'm not big on this.
I think we also learned. Sorry, we also learned in Shadows that emerge. It's still a huge tempo hit on your end, even if you got value off that creature. What you really want to be doing is not taking too much board presence off of your board, right?
Yeah.
Like you want that 3-drop to have created a larger body instead of itself, and the body itself is not that relevant, you know? Like Exuberant Cultist was fine, but it was a huge tempo loss. For example, Exuberant Cultist, for example, is a 3 mana 2/2 that drew a card when it died.
Mm-hmm.
But when you emerged off of Exuberant Cultist, you felt a really big tempo loss. Still,
yeah.
You know, even if it looked like you got value off of it, and you did, it was still pretty big loss to your board on tempo. So I understand being pretty skeptical and emerge not playing out as well as you'd think it would.
I'm on a D. And ceiling? What did you give it as a ceiling?
I mean, I want to give it B- as a ceiling.
B-, that is huge.
It is huge.
I really don't.
But I also understand if you genuinely believe there's no ability to have creatures that you'd like to sacrifice to this, it goes way down. And I think you know the cards way better than I do.
I'm not sure about that. A little bit better, maybe. 5 that taps to best permanence and can come sooner. Oh, that's such.
Do you know what I hate about this card?
Huh, what?
I hate that emerging is so tempo negative.
Yeah.
But the effect is the strongest when you're using it for pushing damage and being
pushing damage,
tempo on board.
Yeah.
Right? So like I actually hate that about the card.
Yeah. We played with Emerge, yeah, but it's like there was that 3/4 flyer, right, that emerged and then you drew a card. There was always something you were doing. That's the problem. Like tapping is not value. And it's not tempo, it's like damage or life. It's damage or life. That's what tapping is. It can be tempo if you tap their lands, but usually that's not gonna be the best choice. It's nice that that's a choice. So we had the Wretched Grief that drew you a card, right? So that was pretty great. Now tapping is not tempo at all. Like tempo is adding or removing things from the board. When you tap lands, that is tempo, but you already lost so much tempo that who knows how good it's gonna be. I gotta like this sacrificing their creatures, drawing a card, something like that, just to replace your card could be so huge. But then you can play it on 8. You can play it for 8 in some decks. Man, I'm on a D here.
Whatever you want for a ceiling, I'll put that as the ceiling as well.
I don't know, man. I don't think it's a C. C.
Fine. Is it me? Wastegate Battle Mage. Or 1 and a Wingding. 2 mana total. For an Eldrazi Wizard that's a 2/2. Has kicker green or 1 and a blue. When you cast a spell, if it was kicked for green, exile target artifact or enchantment and opponent controls. When you cast a spell and it was kicked with 1 and a blue, return target creature and opponent controls to its owner's hand. This one is interesting. You're never gonna play this for 2 mana, basically. I mean, like I guess if you get lucky enough to have the colorless on turn 2 and you know you're getting beaten down, I guess it's a nice mode for a bear. But
a nice bear.
The red-black archetype is artifact-driven. So there's an entire archetype in this set that revolves around artifacts. So like you're killing real stuff in this set. You can kill real stuff in this set.
There are sagas. There maybe a little bit of enchantment creatures, maybe 1 or something. Yeah. There are enchantments.
Like I hate pointing entire cards at sagas, but if I'm just getting it for 1 additional mana off my creature that I'm putting on the battlefield anyway, thumbs up.
There's a lot of artifacts.
Like you're just gaining a lot of value in that sense for relatively cheap.
Yeah.
I think this is quite powerful. This obviously needs a ceiling because it's a Simic card, right? It's like a weird triple splash in a sense. But it's not bad. I think I take this at like a C-, but I think in color it's like a C+.
I think like how highly I take it is gonna be like a C+, really.
So you're like way higher on this.
There's so many targets, man. There are so many targets. Enchantment creatures, these bestow creatures, right?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of enchantment creatures too. Yeah,
so many.
Exiling it is really nice.
Artifacts and artifact creatures, and artifacts are living weapons as well. There is so many targets, and then bouncing is also really good as well. Yeah, I'm all over this. C+ and ceiling B-, sure. We're gonna be. The colorless mana can be a problem, but that can be a problem. I can see that. Yeah, it kills Colossal Dreadmaw in this set. Idol of the False Gods for 2 of any mana. You get a Kindred Artifact Eldrazi. For 1 and a colorless mana, you can tap this artifact to create an Eldrazi spawn. And whenever another Eldrazi you control dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on this thing. And as long as this thing has 8 or more +1/+1 counters on it, it becomes, well, an 8/8 with Annihilator 2. This is garbage. Yeah, why is this not tribal? Oh, okay. Cultural things. Whatever. This is complete ass. This is ass. This is ass that looks bad. Old ass. I don't think you... In this set, I don't think you put this in the deck.
8 or more. That's a bazillion counters.
That's so, man. That's infinite.
That's so many counters. Like, I actually don't even think it's like that. Because if we're evaluating this just as like it gets a counter for every time you tap it, that's not realistic because you have other Eldrazi that you're just naturally playing besides this. And
you gotta pick Colorless
mana. 8? 8?
And for the effect, you gotta pick Colorless.
How do you feel about what if I told you Idol of the False Gods is a necessary piece of Eldrazi decks because that's how you get your... Oh, no, never mind. You need Colorless mana.
You need Colorless mana.
Never mind, this is butt. Okay, sorry. This is an F.
So, I'm gonna put this in my deck, by the way. In the first week, I am gonna put this deck in my... I'm gonna put it in my deck once or twice. And then I'm gonna be like, yeah, I was correct about an F. But I'm gonna do it. Because it's pretty interesting. There are some sacrifice Eldrazi things other than this. So that's kind of cool, but no time for that. Scotty?
Yeah, Solar Transformer 2 for an artifact. Solar Transformer enters the battlefield tapped. When Solar Transformer enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. Tap to add colorless, and then you can also tap it and pay energy to add 1 mana of any color. This is our first time we are seeing energy. The most important thing I think about evaluating energy, if you've never played Colorless Remastered, is that when you see energy on a card, it is not, you cannot evaluate the card like it's like the energy is worth what the card says, right? Like you can't look at this and it says like, oh, I get 3 mana taps of this, because that's not what energy is, right? Energy is a resource that you get to use for other things, right? I get to play my Solar Transformer, and then I get to play my 1 mana red removal spell to like just have that kill something actually relevant that I need to kill, right? Energy is worth so much more than the self-contained card on the text.
Yeah.
To the point that like energy is really valuable. 2 mana for a pretty reasonable mana ramping thing that will then get you additional resources. I'm pretty into that. I like this. I like taking it even kind of early to help enable like greedy splashes. We can also take a second to talk about how often do you think you'll be splashing the set, but I like it for the energy and the resource, which means that even if I draw in the late game, perhaps I can channel that energy into something a little bit more useful. So I'm into this. I'm into this as a C+.
All right, so the energy colors are white, red, and blue. White, red, blue. Remember that. Sorry, what?
Yeah, Jeskai.
Jeskai, yeah. C+, that's a lot. I mean, it gives you colorless mana, I guess. It works there. It works with the energy. It works with the fixing. I mean, it's kind of good. Like only 2 mana, but it enters the battlefield tapped, so it's not gonna use it right away.
But you can use the energy right away.
You can use the energy right away.
It's pretty sick.
I'm gonna C for this one. In the right deck, it works. A lot of these energy decks feel kind of tempo based, so I don't know how good this is gonna be. Tapped isn't a big deal. It's not, but it's important, right? Because it's not gonna cost 1 mana.
Vexing.
Okay, C for me. We're gonna see how good it is to get energy from things that don't affect the board really. Vexing Bauble for 1. It's an artifact that says whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. For 1 and a tap, sacrifice Vexing Bauble, draw a card. Yeah, not for limited. This was not made for limited. F, don't play it.
Is it Urza's Cave next?
You gave it an F?
I gave it an F, so yeah, sorry. I didn't even say it.
Yeah. It's just... No, not for limited. Way too conditional. So conditional that it's not gonna be worth a full card.
Oh, is this in the pack? Is this an uncommon slot?
Yes, I think.
Okay, so you actually just can open a waste in your uncommon slot. Okay, that's fine. D. like you can't from my understanding you can't just put wastes. Waste is a basic land, but from my understanding you can't just go to the basic land box and grab wastes and put them in your deck. you have to draft your waste. So the way that you're paying for colorless costs is you're either draft this waste or draft like the landscapes or have some other card that creates colorless mana, right? And this is just worse than the landscape in every single way.
Why cannot you put
besides
waste
niche cases I don't
in
want to
your
hear
deck?
about? Yeah, this is nonsense. I think this is a D-.
I think it's an F. I mean, you have the common lands that can fix for you, that can cycle as well. I think you don't put this in the deck. I think you don't. F. Urza's Cave. It's land, and it's Urza's Cave. You can tap it for colorless, and for 3 and a tap, you sacrifice it, search your library for land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Not for limited, also an F.
It's an F.
We are onto the rares, the colorless rares. We are so fast.
Give me a second to...
I can read the first one.
Can you read this first one?
Devourer of Destiny for 5 and double colorless. It's a 6/6 Eldrazi that says you may reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, at the beginning of your first upkeep, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards back on top and exile the rest. When you cast this spell, exile target permanent that's 1 or more colors. That's worth it. That's worth it to ramp into. That's definitely worth it to ramp into in these green, red, blue colors. I don't think you can put this in any deck. I think you kind of need green, red, blue to get at least 1 spawn or something. So it's huge that you fix your top cards, right? Get the best out of top 4 next. Whatever you need, right? You can keep, if you have this in your opening hand, you can keep like bad lands, bad curve hand, because you're gonna help yourself. 4 is a lot. And then when you play it, that's the most important thing, obviously. Okay, 7 mana 6/6 that exiles most things. So I like this. It's not for every deck. So again, it requires a ceiling grade, I think. I think it's a C+, and ceiling of what? Like a B+? Maybe B-, ceiling of a B+?
Yeah, sure. I'm okay with B+ ceiling. It's quite good. I was going to take it as a C+. It's very, very strong.
Yeah. I'm okay with a C+ as well. In C+ as a base, right? Because some decks just can't play this. That's the problem. It's colorless, but it's not really colorless.
Echoes of Eternity, 3, Wingding, Wingding, Wingding. 6 mana total for Kindred Enchantments and Eldrazi. If a triggered ability of a colorless spell you control or another colorless permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. My eyes just glazed over already. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this copy is colorless to void creatures, and it doubles the triggered abilities of all. So like if something on cast creates an Eldrazi Scion or Eldrazi Spawn, then it makes 2 of them. If you cycle an Eldrazi, right, then it draws 2 cards. This is powerful, and I actually do think that these effects, for example, Double Down, was, in my opinion, quite strong in OTJ. This costs 6 mana.
And 3 colors.
6 mana. 6 mana? This is... I don't think this card is playable, even in these ideal ramping decks.
Yeah.
I think this is... gosh, wait, hold on. But you ramp into this first, and then you double your next huge creature, I guess.
And you double the...
I'm giving you a D- because I think it might actually be playable, really niche.
I think this is probably an F, but I'm gonna also give it a D- and try to believe in it. The problem
it is,
yeah,
it is really powerful when it's on the battlefield, really strong.
It is very powerful on the battlefield, but it's 6 mana, it's triple colorless. It's so hard to even play this. But I can see it being playable in some decks. If I see this, I'm picking it and trying to make it work. But
actually, I'm gonna go up to D+. I'm kind of a believer. You single-handedly can enable this with the red common, which I think you can get pretty late for that archetype.
You mean the removal spell?
No, the Glimpse of the Impossible, which I think is a legitimately key card for these decks.
Wait, what does the Glimpse Impossible do?
Exile top 3 for each card that you don't play this turn. You create a spawn.
Ah.
I think that card's like legitimately quite good for these decks.
Okay, it's all right. I mean, you gotta survive. You gotta survive to play this. That's the big thing as well. And then it can be killed with some things. I'm still on a D-. I think it's bad. Emrakul, the world anew for 12 mana. It's a 12/12. When you cast this spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls. It has flying, protection from spells, and from permanents that were cast this turn. When this thing leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures you control. Madness, space 6, colorless. So this is not leaving the battlefield, I think. Okay, so let's say it never leaves the battlefield. Let's say it's untouchable. I mean, when you play it, you win. Madness, you're not gonna be playing, right?
Never.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think ever.
You do win when you play it, right? The game just ends. But you do need to get to 12 mana. In basically any set, this would be an F, unplayable card, because 12 mana. But in this set, I think you can cast it in some decks. I think you can cast it in some decks with this set. It's not good. It is not good. It's a 12 mana card that wins you the game, but it's very hard to get to 12 mana even with the spawns, I think. I'm actually gonna go on a D with this one. What do you think, Scotty?
I'm gonna go a little higher on a D+. I know that you've played Magic after Battle for Zendikar, right? At least in that set. And I think that the spawn creation is more aggressive in this set. 10 mana is pretty castable, but I also understand it's also offset by the fact that you have to defend yourself against higher quality cards. So I think this is slightly out of the range of my comfort in saying that this is a good card. Like, if this was 10 mana, I would legitimately say this is a good card. Like, a good card. But at 12, I think it's all the way down for me at a D+.
But how do you it's not that easy to reanimate it. There's one uncommon that reanimates, right? And it still needs to go to the graveyard.
You see the wait, let's talk logistics. I don't know if that's the right word, but whatever. Do you see an uncommon in the new to modern slot more often than a normal uncommon? There's only like 40 new to modern cards.
How many are there? There are what, 20 or something like that? Right?
Yeah, so that means like you almost see one a draft, which is way more than a normal uncommon.
Yeah, there are 20. Yes, you see them more.
Yeah, so that means
there's
going to be a.
Don't you see them the same amount, something like that?
I think normally you see like less than one on average of an uncommon per draft.
So what are you aiming for? What card?
Victimize.
But how do you put this in your graveyard? And I mean, you're not casting it then as well.
The 2 mana spawn creating mill card.
Wait, you're milling this?
I mean, it's a little bit of a pipe.
Yeah, and you're not casting it then, right? It just enters the battlefield, which is pretty good. Yeah. But I mean, you have a 12/12 flyer that has protection from most things. That can also be chum blocked by anything.
Looting, realistically, I guess.
Yeah, this is not what you're reanimating probably, because it's on cast as well.
Oh, it's on cast? Oh.
Yeah, everyone draws you on cast.
Yeah, of course. Disappointing still.
So I'm on a D still. I think it's gonna work in some decks. Do we give it a ceiling grade of like a C+?
I was taking that into account with my D+, but I don't think it's a ceiling.
All right, next up.
Eragast? Erupting Nullkite. I'm sorry, that name is goofy. It's 9 mana for a legendary creature, Eldrazi Dragon. It's a 6/6 with a merge, 6 red. When you cast a spell, you may exile your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards, has flying. Each creature spell you cast has a merge. The merge cost is equal to the mana cost. Let's go one by one. 9 mana for a 6/6. Off it. That's terrible. A merge, 6 red for 6 mana. Depends on what you're sacrificing, but that's reasonable. When you play it, you basically get to refuel your hand once you've emptied it. That's a powerful effect. Nothing too crazy, not out of the water, but it's powerful. The last clause, all the other cards have a merge. I don't care about that. That's almost blank text.
I do, because then you're going to be casting the Emrakul.
Ooh, Emrakul has a merge.
For 3 mana.
I think this is fine. Like, for example, I think this is much better than the Sphinx, in my opinion. I think that red has a little bit better sacrifice fodder. Like, for example, you can, like, I don't know, unearth something and then emerge off it in the same turn, maybe, question mark, stuff like that. But the effect is nice. It's nice. I'm not too blown away by this at all. I think this is just, like, a C+.
I think it's pretty good, because, yeah, this card is, that makes it worth it. Like, yeah, that's like you sack a 3-drop. That makes it worth it. Like, you play everything, then you play this. I'm gonna be minus for this one.
Okay.
Kozilek, the Broken Reality. For 9, it's a 9/9. When you cast this spell, up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hands. For each card manifested this way, you draw a card. Manifest is just play it face down as a 2/2. And it's like morph. It's like morph, but you can manifest anything. You can flip it if it's a creature, of course. Other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2. Yeah, this shit. Yeah, you're like giving up. I mean, they're probably not gonna have anything by that point. This is pretty bad. This is a big body that draws some cards and makes some of your things bigger, hopefully. You don't draw 4, you draw 2. Maximum. If they still have cards in their hand.
Maximum, you draw 4. But you're saying realistically? Or you're actually saying maximum?
Oh, it's 2 target players. Oh, you can target yourself. Oh, it's not opponents, it's players. Oh, it's players. I mean, it's still 9 mana. You get 2 5/4s if you have cards left in your hand. I mean, okay, this is actually pretty good. Okay, you can do it on yourself. You can manifest Emrakul because you're never casting it anyways. That seems fine. I mean, is this still worth 9? Like, when you play this, are you really gonna have cards in your hand? Huh? Scotty?
It's tough. It is tough. But I do think this is very castable.
I'm on a D. Because I think you just play this, and you get a 9/9 and nothing else. And you buff your... hopefully you buff your board. I think that's it.
I'm a little bit more optimistic about my opponent having cards, because I do think it's pretty reasonable to put this out on turn 6, for example. I think that's a reasonable turn to be casting Kozilek. Between like stuff like Worn Power Stone, Scion tokens, etc. I don't think that's a huge pipe dream. I think that's like a average good case scenario.
How the fuck? You mean you cast it when you have 6 mana, not on turn 6?
On turn 6.
On turn 6, when you have like 4 mana in play. How much mana? How much lands do you think you have in play on turn 6?
On turn 6, like 5 to 6 mana on turn 6.
Jesus Christ, you're playing some others. You're playing Hearthstone, I think.
I'm playing 18 lands in my ramp deck. Yeah, probably.
You're not getting there on turn 6.
Wow, Lola, you must be a really good player if you get that unlucky to never hit your 5th land drop on turn 6.
Okay. So you're playing how many lands?
18.
18. It's turn 6. Okay, let's say you were first.
I'm
Let's
giving this
say
B minus, by the way.
Huh?
I'm giving this B minus.
B like a B, like good
B minus.
B.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very, very good ramp target. Very good top end. I think this is a reason to be Team Eldrazi.
So there is 73% chance that you're gonna hit 5 lands. That's like
pretty good.
27 that you want. And
then you wait like 2 to 3 turns, and then you play your huge board impact card.
So wait, and then let's say you don't get the 27%, and you get those 5 lands, and you're gonna have what, 4 more mana randomly from spawns or something.
I don't think it's unreasonable.
4 man, 4.
Worn Power Stone, your stupid solar thing.
Okay. I think that's very unreasonable.
Very, very good ramp target.
Okay, I think that's very unreasonable. Okay, I'm still on a D. I think this is not gonna be good. I hope it's gonna be good. If it's gonna be good, that means that Eldrazi decks are good, which means that everything, most of the things are good in the set. Like if super slow strategies work in a set that has good tempo, that means everything works. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, I think you're gonna cast your Kozilek, and then you're gonna attack with your bear. That's now gonna be a 5/4. And that's going to feel really good.
Okay. Next up.
Kozilek's Command. It's a X, Wingding. For a Kindred instant, choose 2. Target player creates X, O1 colorless Eldrazi spawns. Target player scries X, then draws a card. Exile target creature with mana value X or less. Or exile up to X target cards from graveyards. Difficult to cast, but reasonably super inefficient. Actually, this is hyper inefficient. I was gonna say reasonably strong, but like now we're paying like 4 mana to kill a bear and get like 2 tokens, which is like it seems like we're jumping through a hoop for like just an okay effect, which I'm not really into. I'm kind of more off this one. I think this is like a D+ for me.
Yeah, this is pretty bad.
I'm going to give this a D, actually. I'm not really into this at all.
Yeah, this like scry X and draw 1 card. That's not that good. I mean, if you have a lot of colorless, okay, like you can scry X and draw a card and kill something. That's not that bad. Or create a bunch of tokens.
I mean, what are you killing that you want to kill?
Like it's kind of fine if you kill like anything. If you kill a 3-drop, that's
for 5 mana. Yeah, 3-drop. So. That's pretty good.
Make 3 0/1s or scry 3, draw 1 card. It's not bad. But double colorless, like it's not nothing. So the last card, just people are talking a little bit still about the last card. Like, yeah, in the perfect world, you can get a 9/9 and 4 creatures that are 5/4s. That's a very perfect world, though. And before you actually lost the game. X0 draws your card, exiles a token. Yeah, but you got 2 colorless is a problem, not the X. I mean, all of these things need a ceiling. I'm gonna like D plus, ceiling C plus, also, or ceiling B minus.
That's a really high ceiling.
Yeah, I think it's really good if you have a lot of colorless mana, and you don't have to sacrifice the lands for things.
Can I say you on a C plus ceiling?
Sure, C plus seems fine. Null Drifter for 7. We got a 4/4 flying. When you cast this spell, draw 2 cards. It has Annihilator 1, and it has Evoke for 2 and a blue. Now this is something, man. You can just pay 3 mana to draw 2 cards.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's the way you said that was really funny.
Yeah, that's not something. That's like that's a fine fail case. 3 mana, draw 2 cards. But wait. But I mean, this is a good thing to ramp into with your spells. It's like when you have the mana, like it's Annihilator that is not gonna be dying. That's not gonna be dying to It triggers on cast. Sure. Yeah, it triggers on cast even if they counter it. Like that's a 7 mana like draw 2 cards 4/4 that has Annihilator 1. This is a good thing to ramp into, man. I'm on a B for this one. This is the best thing to ramp into that we saw so far. Do you agree? If you don't, then you don't. Do you agree? Do you agree? Do you agree?
I have this as a B-, and I think it's slightly better than Kozilek.
Okay.
So I do technically agree with you, yes.
Best thing to ramp into. It's not technically like you 100% agree.
Oh, that is yes.
Man, I hope Kozilek is gonna be good.
Factually.
Alright, next up.
Ulamog the Defiler. 10 mana for a legendary creature Eldrazi. It's a 7/7. When you cast a spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. Ward, sacrifice 2 permanents. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. Ulamog has Annihilator X, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. This has no evasion, so it can be chumped. I think reasonably speaking, if you exile half their library when you cast this, it's like 5 or 6, right? So you're investing everything into dropping this, right? And it's maybe like a 12/12 or 13/13. And then at that stage in the game, you attack once. It's not going to do it in one attack. It's not going to do it in one attack. Yeah, it probably has to attack twice for you to win the game. Yeah. That's slow. That's slow. It's just slow. You've already sacrificed probably 5 permanents-ish worth of stuff to get this out at a reasonable time. I think this card is garbage. Your opponent doesn't even have to pay that much to kill this, right? It doesn't have much protection, right? By the time you can invest 10 mana into dropping this, your opponent can pay 3 mana and sack 2 lands to murder it, for a huge amount of discount. This card is actually horrible, I think. I think this card is quite bad. This one's like a D- for me.
Yeah, this is really bad, yeah. Incredible cost for one big body. No matter how you put it, it's one big body that needs to attack next turn to be worth for the mana that you're paying for it. There are some cards that can haste it. But the problem is they're in like a white-red, I think. Yeah, you exile Emrakul, then you do win in one attack. Right, Scotty?
You would definitely win on attack if your opponent put Emrakul on the deck.
Yeah, not good. D-. For these high costs, you really need enter the battlefield effects. I cannot state like how important that is. And not enter the battlefield make this creature bigger, right? You're not milling them out of this. It cannot be this creature is now huge. It needs to be like I'm back in the game. I'm back in the game, baby. And then it needs to attack. That's a lot to ask. I'm gonna lose to this card. Maybe I'm gonna win with it sometimes. But not a good card. D-. Man, I really hope that Kozilek is good. I really hope for that.
Kozilek has inbuilt protection, by the way. If you think about it.
What is it?
Because, like, at that stage in the game, they're holding removal. You just manifest it. Just manifest it, bro.
What if it's instant speed removal, like most of
Well, then boo-hoo. You're dead.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's just like 9 mana. I don't know if you're gonna have cards. It's so much hoops to jump through for a 9-drop. That, I don't know, when I play a 9-drop, I kind of want it to be game winning. I don't want it to hopefully be good. Hopefully be game winning. And hopefully not be horrible card. Like, hopefully. It's all a little bit too much hope. But I can see it. I hope it's better than D. Oh, so I'm hoping so much, man. That it's better than D. I hope you're correct that it's a really good card. Because that, I think, would make this a really good format. If Kozilek is good. Disruptor Flute for 2. It's a flash. When it enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Spells with a chosen name cost 3 more to cast. Activated abilities of sources with a chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So you can't flash this when something is on the stack, right? Because the mana is already paid.
You can. It's a legal play.
Okay. And you can't flash this to counter the ability because the ability is already activated. Well, you can fuck off. This is an F. Sorry for shouting. I hate it. Not a limited card.
F. Winter Moon. 2 mana artifact. Players can't untap more than 1 non-basic land during each of their untap steps. F.
F, okay, goodbye.
Yep.
Okay, we have this cycle of rare lands for every color. Archway of Innovation. It's a land, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island, which is great. Probably just enters the battlefield untapped. And you can pay 1. It taps for blue. You can pay 1 and tap it for an effect that says the next spell you cast this turn has Improvise. Your artifacts can help cast that spell. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1. Okay, my god, that's so bad. Oh my god, that's bad. Wait, so you're paying 2 mana? So look. In order to ramp for 1 single mana, 1, you need to tap 3 artifacts. You're tapping 3 artifacts to ramp for 1 mana. So this is basically a verse island, right? This is a verse island.
Yeah.
D minus. If
Generous.
you need an island. I mean, D minus. It's just an F, right?
I'm gonna give this an F.
F, just an F. Like 3 artifacts. When is it worth to tap 3 artifacts to ramp for 1 mana? Like, what?
Arena of Glory. Land. Enters battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. Tap to add red and a red and tap exert Arena of Glory, add red. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until the end of turn. This is good. This one's good. Of the cycle. Like, you just play this majority of the time, not all the time, critically, but majority of the time will come to the untapped. It's nice. And then hasting something for basically 2 red mana is it's nice. It's a nice effect, especially if you got some big buddies. You're playing the Eldrazi deck, right? I think this is probably at its best in Temur Eldrazi, right? You finally slam your like stupid 6/8 Reacher, and you do it with haste, bash, bam. So maybe sometimes with Annihilator, kind of nice. I think this card is decent. I think this is like a C.
Yeah, C minus. This is nice. Monumental Henge. It's same for planes, but for 2 and double and double white. You tap it and look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. So artifacts, legendaries, sagas. There are a lot of artifacts. There are some sagas in this set. And do we have some legendaries?
Yeah, there's some legends.
Is red like the only color that has a common legend?
I like how you're asking that like they've printed common legends since Legends.
What?
When was the last time you've seen a common legend, Loba?
When I don't remember.
Yeah, because it's been like 30 years.
No, wait. Didn't Dominaria have something? No?
No. Dominaria was uncommon legends.
Oh. But the red has a common legend, so there is one legend.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
there are a
there's
lot
one,
of
yeah,
artifacts, and there are some sagas. That's the biggest thing. And I mean, we don't really have uncommon legends. There are sagas there, but we don't really have uncommon legends. Tribute is going crazy. We don't have uncommon legends in this set. So it's red, it has a legend, so who cares about that? It's like a lot of artifacts and shit. I mean, sure, why not do something with your mana later on? C minus, sure. Why not?
I'm a little bit lower on this one. It's expensive enough where I don't actually anticipate activating it that much.
Yeah, it's 5 mana for this effect.
Yeah, like that's a big activation cost. That's like I drew nothing.
Yeah, that's when you have nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's true. It's okay. Shifting Woodland. Land. Shifting Woodland enters tapped unless you control forest. Tapped at green. Delirium. 2 green. Shifting Woodland becomes a copy of target permanent in your graveyard until end of turn. Activate only if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. This one is pretty real. This is pretty real. Getting card types in your graveyard. Lands. I think you can have that relatively unlocked thanks to the sacrifice landscape.
Yes.
Right? There's a bunch of artifacts. There's a bunch of enchantment creatures too.
And
that you can just get Delirium pretty quickly. Instant sorceries, sagas. Saga's just an... Is that a whole card type? Or is that just an enchantment?
That's enchantment.
It's just an enchantment, right?
Enchantment.
Yeah, but they go to the graveyard.
They go to the
that's
graveyard,
nice. I don't think it's trivial to get Delirium. In no way it's trivial, but it's definitely feasible. And the effect...
Instant sorceries and creatures,
strong.
those are the easy ones. And lands in this set.
Yeah. Like, that effect is strong. That's a strong effect. So, I like this a lot. This is a strong creature land, in my opinion.
It's strong.
Strong, yeah. Strong creature land. So this is like a B- for me.
Whoa!
Is that low for you, or is that really high?
You need 5 mana for this effect, right?
You can block for 4 mana.
No, you cannot.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
You guess. So yeah, it's not in C range. Like, it's super slow. It's still pretty good. Really nice to have this effect on a land. Yeah, I'm gonna see. This is fine. Not overly excited about it, but strong effect for a land. It just does cost 5 mana, so you do it when you literally have nothing else to do.
I think that the threat of just being like, if this is sitting on the battlefield and your opponent just has to, like, your opponent has to shift combat around this. Like, you got a 7-drop in your bin, right? You have like an Eldrazi deck or whatever, right? That drastically changes your way your opponent can attack and block. So I think this is actually really good.
You can copy a saga. That's true. That is so cool. Who said that? Tell. You can copy a saga before your draw step. Huh?
That's pretty cute.
That's not cute. That's like that's really cool. Wait. There are. Let me just quickly see what sagas we have. Huh?
It would keep the lore counter. The lore counter would stay on this land.
Wait. Sagas are an uncommon rarity, right?
Yeah.
Wait, why cannot I see them then? Oh, okay. Let me just quickly see this. So White Saga exiles target creature on opponent controls with power 3 or greater as the first step. What do you think about that, Scotty?
I think it's expensive.
Wait, that really is 4 mana. That is really 4 mana. Like, you don't need to pay 5.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that is 4 mana.
Wait,
yeah.
4 mana to kill something with power 3 or greater is... Exile something with power 3 or greater is not good?
No, that's actually good. Sorry, that one specifically is good.
But it's gonna have one lore counter. So you can only do it 2 times, right? You can copy the first effect once and the second effect. Because the lore counter is not gonna fall off. It's still gonna be there.
It's not. Yep.
Oh, that is really cool. Wait, what about the Green Saga? What do you get? Create a 1/1. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, you get a 1/1. Yeah. Let's go.
Got him. What do you mean 3/1?
I think this is on par with the Hydra land from D&D.
We're looking at sagas because you can copy a saga before a draw step, so and that is pretty cool. What do you give this?
B-.
I'm gonna see. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Spy Master's Vault. It's black, and for black on a tap, target creature you control connives X, where X is the number of creatures that die this turn. Oh, this is the best one. I mean, how many creatures are dying? You have Eldrazi tokens, right? People have Eldrazi tokens. Okay, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna go on a C for this one.
A C?
A C+.
Okay, I'm like, that's like heckin' low. I think this is really strong.
This
I'm giving
is
this
really
a B.
strong, yeah.
This is really cheap.
Black is also... So, green, white, and black care about modified creatures and +1/+1 counters. Oh, wait, connive? There are creatures that have really good effects when you put +1/+1 counters on them. Okay, I'm gonna B
Yeah,
minus. This is
that's
great.
the whole black-green theme.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, not the whole team. It's a thing there. Okay,
Well, I
B
mean,
minus.
isn't Wizard say it was the theme? Whatever.
Every color has like multiple, very different archetypes, like archetypical cards and synergy cards. Like colors have multiple identities. Well, B minus. This is great. What do you give it, Scotty?
A B.
B? Yeah, that one is great. Hey, you can do this one.
Ugin's Labyrinth. Ugin's Labyrinth is a land. Imprint, when Ugin's Labyrinth enters the battlefield, you may exile a colorless card with mana value 7 or greater from your hand. Tap. If a card is... tap to add colorless. If a card is exiled with Ugin's Labyrinth, add 2 colorless instead. And you can also tap it to return the card to its owner's hand. I think this is strong. I think this is extremely powerful. If you have any sort of 7+ drop in your opening hand, and you're able to power out, for example, your 3 drop on turn 2, your 4 drop on turn 3, that's just a powerful effect. For the downside of the fact that, yeah, you have a colorless land, right? But ideally, you have a deck that maybe sometimes that's even a bonus. I think this is good. I think this is like legitimately quite good. This is like a C+, and later on you can even just get your card back. And I think that the risk of having your land destroyed is not 0. It's not 0 in this set. There's stuff that kills lands that people are going to be playing because it happens to be a red land as well. But it's pretty safe under there. It's pretty safe, so you're probably going to get that card back. But it's good. I'm going to give this a C+.
It's better than a waste. Yeah, it's better than an F card. C fucking plus? Holy shit.
C+.
This can be really good on early turn, but I think it's a big deal that it only taps for colorless and never for anything else. Oof.
I think your mana costs in a normal teamer 2-colored base deck, right? I say teamer 2-color, but I'm saying in the teamer colors. A decent amount of your mana requirements are going to be subsidized for the fact that you're going to have a more amount of colorless cards than normal. So you can still be taking game actions sometimes while missing colors.
I'm gonna give it a D minus. I think it's garbage.
Why do you think it's garbage?
First,
because of the colorless?
There is so many hoops to jump through, right? You first it's colorless. That's the huge deal. Always colorless. Second huge deal is how many 7+ mana cards are you going to be playing? Because you need a lot of them. Okay, let's say you do. Third thing is it's got to be relevant turn, which is probably turn 1 or some early turn, where you wanna where it's good to imprint this. It has such a narrow timing when this is good. Such a narrow timing. It's so many drawbacks. Like I think it's we can compare it to Doc Outlack. I think the Simic Bear from OTJ, where the timing for it to not just be a 2/3 vanilla creature is so narrow, and I think it's the same thing here. It's so narrow, but at least that one is a 2/3 and not a colorless land. So D-. I think it's bad.
Okay, I don't think the downside is that bad here, and the upside is really high.
I don't think the upside is really high because of it's so narrow again, and that's gotta matter.
Well, I mean, it's a different thing. The upside can be really high and really narrow at the same time. I don't think that's mutually exclusive.
I don't think it's
right.
All right, we are done with colorless, and this time like colorless is it's kind of like an archetype. It's not anything can play it, so the cards are better. It's like it's harder to play than regular colors, so it's the cards are kind of worse. It's completely different than what we had in the last billion set reviews. It's like colorless, oh, you can play it in any deck. It's like colorless, oh, a lot of decks cannot play these cards. And now we got white. White commons. We start with Airy Auxiliary.